The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was a place of wonder. Pillars of white stone rose toward a ceiling that showed the stars themselves. 12 seats formed a circle at the center, each one holding a representative of the elder species. These beings had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. They had seen empires rise and fall. They believed they knew everything worth knowing. On this day, they would make a terrible mistake. Ambassador Park stood at the center of the circle. He was 63 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind him stood his team of advisors and translators. They had traveled for months to reach this place. They had prepared their speeches carefully. They had brought gifts and promises of friendship. The humans wanted only one thing: to be accepted. Honored members of the council, Park began, his voice steady despite his fear. Humanity comes before you with open hands. We seek membership in your great alliance. We wish to learn from you, to trade with you, and to stand beside you as equals. High Speaker leaned forward in his seat. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and eyes that held no warmth. His species, had led the council for 2,000 years. They considered themselves the most civilized beings in existence. Equals, repeated the word as if it tasted bad. You have existed for a mere handful of centuries. Your species still fights among itself. You have barely left your own solar system, and you speak of being our equals. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not all the council members joined in, but enough did. Park felt his face grow hot, but he did not look away. We are young, he admitted, but we learn quickly, we adapt, we overcome. Given time, we can contribute much to this council. Time, said another council member, a creature covered in hard brown scales. That is precisely what concerns us. Your kind breeds fast and spreads faster. In 1,000 years, how many of you will there be? In 10,000. Park had no answer. He had not expected this question. He had expected tests and requirements, not fear. General, the council's military commander, spoke next. He was massive, built like a mountain of muscle and armor. I have studied your history, he said. War after war, weapon after weapon. You split the atom and immediately used it to destroy cities. You are dangerous. We have grown since then, Park said quickly. We have united, we have. You have done nothing, interrupted. You are children playing with fire and you wish to sit among adults. The answer is no. The vote was quick. 11 species voted against humanity. One species, a quiet race called the abstained. None voted yes. But the council was not finished. There is another matter, said. We cannot allow humanity to expand freely in our space. Your growth must be contained. Park felt cold fear spread through his chest. What do you mean? Pressed a button, and a map appeared in the air above them. It showed the entire galaxy. At the very edge, far from all the bright stars and wealthy worlds, there was a dark region marked in red. The outer rim, said, barren space, dead worlds, dangerous anomalies. You will take your colonies there, all of them. You will leave council space within 1 standard year. If any human vessel is found in our territory after that time, it will be destroyed. The chamber fell silent. Even some council members seemed surprised by this harsh judgment. You are sending us to die, Park whispered. We are giving you a chance to live, replied. Be grateful for that. In a small viewing gallery above the main chamber, a young girl watched everything through a glass window. Her name was. She was only 12 years old, the daughter of one of the ambassador's advisors. She had been so excited to see the council, to witness this historic moment. Now she watched her people be condemned. Her father found her there an hour later, still staring at the empty chamber below. Tears had dried on her cheeks, but her eyes were not sad anymore. They were hard. We have to leave, her father said gently. The ships are being prepared. Will we really go to the outer rim? Asked. We have no choice. Then we will survive there, said. Her voice was calm, but something fierce burned beneath it. We will grow strong. and one day we will come back." Her father looked at his daughter and saw something new in her, something that had not been there before this day. He did not know if it was hope or hatred or something else entirely. "One day," he agreed, though he did not believe it. The exodus began within months. 12 great colony fleets gathered everything humanity had built among the stars. Ships of all sizes carried millions of people away from their homes. They left behind cities and farms, factories and schools. They left behind graves. The council watched them go and felt satisfied. The human problem would solve itself. The outer rim would kill them slowly. In a generation or two, there would be no more humans to worry about. On the refugee vessel Hope's Light, Young pressed her hand against a cold window. Behind her, families cried and prayed. Children asked questions that had no good answers. Old people sat in silence, knowing they would never see their homes again. But did not cry. She watched her birth planet grow smaller and smaller until it was just another star among millions. "I will remember," she said quietly. "I will remember what they did to us, and my children will remember, and their children after them." The ship's engines roared to life. The fleet moved toward the darkness at the edge of the galaxy, toward exile, toward what the Council believed was certain death. They were so very wrong. The journey to the outer rim took 3 months. Many ships broke down along the way. Some were lost entirely, disappearing into the void with all their passengers. By the time the fleets reached their destination, nearly 100,000 people had already died. What they found was worse than they had feared. Dead planets orbited dying stars. Asteroid fields stretched across entire systems. Radiation storms swept through space without warning. There was no food, no water, no shelter waiting for them. The first year was hell. Admiral Sung, commander of the military fleet, worked without sleep to organize the survivors. He established emergency rationing. He sent scout ships to find anything useful. He held the fleet together through sheer force of will. When he finally collapsed from exhaustion, his young son found him unconscious in his command chair. The boy was only 15, but he carried his father to the medical bay himself. He stayed by his side until the old man woke. "The fleet?" Admiral Sung asked immediately. "Still here," his son said, "still fighting." The admiral smiled weakly. "That is what humans do. We fight, we survive, we adapt." He took his son's hand and gripped it tightly. "Remember this, one. Remember everything. The Council threw us away like garbage, but garbage can burn, and we will burn so bright that one day the whole galaxy will see our fire." Young one nodded. He did not fully understand his father's words yet, but he would. In time, he would understand everything. And he would make the Council pay. The exile had begun. The humans had been cast aside, forgotten, left to die in the darkest corner of the galaxy. But humans do not die easily. They endure, they remember, they rise. And when they rise, the stars themselves tremble. The first decade nearly destroyed them. Food ran out within 6 months. The hydroponic farms on the colony ships could not produce enough to feed everyone. People began to starve. Children cried from hunger. Old people quietly stopped eating so the young could survive. Admiral Sung died in the 3rd year. His heart simply gave out. He had pushed himself too hard for too long. His son, now 18 years old, stood at his funeral and did not cry. He had learned that tears solved nothing. "My father believed we could survive this," one said to the gathered crowd. "He died still believing it. I will not let his faith be wasted." But faith alone could not feed the hungry. The colony ships began to scatter as each fleet searched desperately for resources. Communication became difficult. Some ships disappeared and were never heard from again. Others sent final messages filled with screaming before going silent forever. In the 5th year, a plague swept through 3 of the largest vessels. It killed fast and without mercy. By the time it burned itself out, 40,000 people were dead. There were not enough survivors to run the ships properly. Two of them crashed into asteroids. The third drifted until its power failed. No one came to help, no one even knew. Now in her early 20s, worked as an engineer on the vessel Eternal Dawn. She had learned every system on the ship. She could fix anything with wire and hope. Her skills kept her vessel alive when others failed. But even she could not stop the winter of silence. It started in the 8th year. A massive radiation storm, larger than anything they had seen before, swept across the outer rim. Ships had to shut down all non-essential systems to protect themselves. For 3 months, the fleets drifted in darkness and cold. No engines, no communication, just silence and fear. When the storm finally passed, the survivors counted their losses. 40% of humanity was gone. 4 of the original 12 colony fleets had been completely destroyed. Millions of people vanished into the void. The remaining humans gathered what was left and found each other again. They met in a region of space that was slightly less deadly than the rest. There, floating among the wreckage of their dreams, they held a council of their own. "We cannot continue like this," said Captain Moon, an old woman who had led her fleet through the storm. "If we stay scattered, we will all die alone." "Then we stay together," said. She stood before the assembled leaders, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. "We combine our resources, we share everything. No more separate nations, no more flags, just one people, human." There was argument, of course. Old grudges died hard. But in the end, survival won over pride. The Outer Rim Coalition was born that day. Was chosen as its first leader, not because she wanted power but because everyone trusted her. She had saved lives. She had kept ships running. She had given hope when there was none. Her first act was to organize the remaining ships into a single fleet. Her second act was to find a home. Scout ships searched for months. They found dead worlds and empty space. They found asteroid fields that could be mined and gas giants that could be harvested. But they found no planet where humans could walk freely under an open sky. Until they found 7. It was a moon, not a planet. It orbited a massive gas giant in a system with no name. Its surface was ice and rock, frozen solid. The scout ship almost passed it by. But young one, now a pilot in the Scout Corps, noticed something strange. Heat signatures beneath the ice. He landed his small ship and walked out onto the frozen surface. The cold bit through his suit, but he kept going. He found a crack in the ice and climbed down. What he discovered changed everything. Beneath the frozen surface, geothermal vents pumped heat from the moon's core. Hot springs bubbled in vast underground caverns. The temperature was warm enough for humans to survive. There was even liquid water, the most precious resource in space. One's voice shook as he reported his finding. "I found us a home." The first colony on 7 was established within a year. Engineers carved living spaces from the rock. Farmers planted the first crops in underground gardens. Children were born in the caves, the first generation of true Outer Rim humans. Walked through the new settlement on the day it opened. She watched families move into their small rooms. She watched children run through the corridors, laughing for the first time in years. She watched old people sit down and weep with relief. An old man stopped her in the corridor. "Governor," he said, using her new title, "do you think we will survive now?" Thought about the question carefully. "I think we will do more than survive," she said. "I think we will become something new, something the galaxy has never seen before." More colonies followed. Some were built on other moons. Others were carved into asteroids. The humans learned to live in places no other species would consider habitable. They became experts at finding resources where there seemed to be none. 20 years passed. The coalition grew stronger. Children who had been born during the exile became adults. They knew nothing of Earth or the old colonies. The outer rim was their home, and they loved it fiercely. One, now in his 40s, established the first military academy on a station called Pinnacle. He trained young men and women to fly ships and fight, not for war but for protection. The outer rim was still dangerous, full of pirates and anomalies. "We must be strong," he told his students. "Not to conquer but to defend. We protect our own, that is our duty." His son, Wu, was among his first students. The boy was brilliant and determined. He pushed himself harder than anyone else. He wanted to make his father and grandfather proud. Governor visited the academy often. She was old now, her hair white and her step slow. But her mind was as sharp as ever, and her spirit burned just as bright. "You are teaching them well," she told one evening, watching the cadets train. "I am teaching them to survive," he replied. "Teach them to remember, too," said. "We must never forget what the council did to us, not for revenge but for wisdom, so we never do the same to others." 50 years after the exile began, gave her final speech. She stood on a platform in the central cavern of Seven before 10,000 people. Millions more watched on screens across the coalition. "They gave us death," she said, her voice echoing through the stone halls. "They sent us to the darkest corner of the galaxy and expected us to fade away. But we did not fade. We grew, we built, we became a family." She paused, looking out at the faces before her, young and old, strong and weak, all of them survivors. "We chose life," she continued. "And as long as we remember that choice, as long as we hold on to each other, nothing can destroy us. Not the void, not the cold, not even the council itself." The crowd erupted in cheers. People wept openly. For the first time since the exile began, they felt something more than hope. They felt pride. Governor died 3 months later, peacefully in her sleep. Her last words were to her granddaughter, a young girl also named. "Remember," she whispered, "always remember." The younger held her grandmother's hand until the end. She was only 15, but she understood. The old woman had carried humanity's pain for 50 years. Now that burden would pass to a new generation. And with that burden came a promise. Someday humanity would return to the stars they had been driven from, not as beggars, not as refugees, as equals, or as conquerors. The choice would be theirs. Doctor lived in the smallest laboratory in the coalition. It was built into an old cargo container attached to a research station at the edge of known space. The walls leaked. The equipment was old and broken. Most scientists had given up and left years ago. But stayed. She stayed because she believed something was out there. For 15 years, she had studied the strange energy readings that came from a region called the Shattered Expanse. Other scientists called it radiation noise. They said she was wasting her time. They said she was a little bit crazy. Maybe they were right about the crazy part, but did not care. She had lost her parents during the exile, lost her home, lost everything except her curiosity, and that curiosity told her the readings were not noise. They were a signal. On the night of her discovery, was working alone. Rain fell outside, a rare thing on the station. She liked the sound. It reminded her of stories her mother had told about Earth. Her instruments beeped, another reading from the expanse. She almost ignored it. She had recorded thousands of similar readings, but something made her look. This one was different. The pattern was clear, structured, almost mathematical. It pulsed with a rhythm that could not be natural. Stared at her screen for a long time. Her hands trembled. "This is impossible," she whispered. But there it was, proof that something existed in the shattered expanse, something intelligent, something ancient. Did not sleep that night. She analyzed the data again and again. By morning, she had enough evidence to make her case. She contacted the Coalition Science Council and requested an immediate meeting. They laughed at her. "The Shattered Expanse is a death zone," said Director Minu. the head of the Science Council. Gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, magnetic fields that fry electronics. No ship has ever survived a deep journey into that region. Because no ship has ever had a reason to try, replied. I am giving you that reason. You are giving us theories and guesses, Director said dismissively. We cannot risk lives for your fantasy. Left the meeting feeling defeated, but she did not give up. She began reaching out to anyone who would listen. Ship captains, engineers, even politicians. Most ignored her. Some mocked her. Captain did neither. He was young for a captain, only 32. His ship, a fast scout vessel called the Bright Star, had mapped more of the outer rim than any other. He was known for taking risks that others called foolish and succeeding anyway. When showed him her data, studied it carefully, he asked questions, good questions, questions that showed he understood what he was looking at. You really believe something is in there? He asked finally. I know something is in there, said. I cannot prove what it is, but I can prove it exists. Was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. I have always wanted to see what lies beyond the expanse. Everyone says it is certain death. I would like to prove everyone wrong. You would risk your ship, your crew. My crew volunteers for every mission, said. I will tell them the truth and let them choose. If they say no, we do not go. If they say yes, he shrugged. Then we go find your impossible thing. The crew said yes, all 20 of them. They were young and brave and perhaps a little foolish, but they trusted their captain and they trusted science. The Bright Star launched 3 weeks later, stood on the bridge beside as they approached the edge of the shattered expanse. Through the viewport they could see it, a wall of swirling colors and flashing lights, beautiful and terrifying. Last chance to turn back, said. No, replied, keep going. The journey into the expanse was a nightmare. Gravitational waves tossed the ship like a toy. Radiation alarms screamed constantly. 2 engines failed. The navigation system went crazy, showing them in 5 different places at once. But's readings guided them. She tracked the signal through the chaos, adjusting their course constantly. Her voice remained calm even when the ship shook so hard that crew members were thrown from their seats. 3 days into the expanse, the signal suddenly grew stronger, much stronger. There, pointed at her screen, those coordinates, that is the source. Piloted the damaged ship through one final stretch of madness. And then, suddenly, everything went quiet. The storm stopped. The gravitational waves smoothed out. The stars appeared clear and bright. Before them floated something impossible. It was a structure, vast beyond imagination. Towers of dark metal rose from a base that must have been hundreds of kilometers wide. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost alive. It looked like a city, a machine, and a work of art all at once. What is that? Someone whispered. Could barely speak. It is old, millions of years old, older than the Council, older than any species we know. Guided the ship toward a docking port that seemed designed for vessels their size. How was that possible? No one knew humans existed when this thing was built. No one knew anything existed. They landed. The crew armed themselves, though weapons seemed foolish against something so far beyond their understanding. They opened the airlock and stepped into the ancient structure. The air was breathable. The temperature was comfortable. Lights activated as they walked, guiding them deeper inside. It was as if the structure had been waiting for them. They found a central chamber after an hour of walking. At its heart was a console covered in symbols that no one recognized. Above it, suspended in the air, was a sphere of pure light. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. The wellspring breathed. She did not know where the name came from. It simply felt right. Approached the console carefully. As he reached out his hand, the symbols began to glow. "Captain, be careful," said his first officer. "I do not think it wants to hurt us," said softly. "I think it has been waiting." His fingers touched the console. Light exploded through the chamber. It was not painful but overwhelming. Information flooded into his mind, images and concepts and knowledge beyond words. He saw the beings who had built this place, long dead now. He saw what they had created. He understood in that moment what the wellspring truly was. Unlimited energy, power beyond measure, the heart of a technology that could reshape the galaxy. And it responded to humans, only to humans. Something in their biology, their minds, their very souls, matched what the ancient builders had designed. The wellspring had waited millions of years for someone like them to arrive. When the light faded, fell to his knees, rushed to help him. "Are you hurt?" she asked desperately. Looked up at her. There were tears on his face, but he was smiling. "I am fine," he said. "Better than fine. Do you understand what this means? The Council sent us to die in the worst part of the galaxy, but instead they sent us to this." He stood slowly, looking at the wellspring's gentle glow. "They threw us away," he continued, "and in doing so they gave us the greatest gift in the universe." Outside the structure, the wellspring's power reached out across space. A pillar of light appeared, visible across 3 star systems. Ships throughout the outer rim stopped and stared. No one knew what it was yet, but everyone felt it. Something had changed. The exiles had found their treasure. And now everything was possible. The news of the wellspring spread through the coalition like fire. Within days, every human in the outer rim knew that something miraculous had been found. Within weeks, the first scientists arrived at the ancient structure to study it. What they learned changed everything. The wellspring was not just an energy source. It was a key that unlocked technologies humanity had only dreamed of. Faster ships, stronger materials, shields that could stop almost any weapon, medical devices that could heal wounds in minutes instead of days. And it all worked best for humans. The ancient builders had designed it that way, though no one understood why. Perhaps they had seen humans coming somehow. Perhaps they had wanted to help the underdogs of the galaxy. Perhaps it was simply fate. Doctor became the head of the Wellspring Research Division. She gathered the minds in the coalition and put them to work. They studied day and night, year after year, slowly unlocking the secrets of the ancient technology. Governor, the granddaughter of the first, led the political effort. She organized the construction of new stations, new ships, new cities. She made sure the benefits of the wellspring reached every human, not just the wealthy or powerful. "This gift belongs to all of us," she declared in a famous speech. "Every child who was born in the dark, every parent who sacrificed so their family could survive, every ancestor who died believing we would fail. This is for them." Admiral Wu rose through the military ranks during these years. He was the grandson of one who had founded the first academy. The military tradition ran deep in his blood, but Wu was different from his ancestors. He did not just want to defend, he wanted to prepare. "The Council will learn about us eventually," he warned the coalition leaders. "When they do, they will come. We must be ready." Some called him paranoid. Others called him a warmonger, but Governor listened. She gave him resources to build a proper fleet, not the scattered defense ships of the past, but true warships designed to fight and win. The first of these ships was the Defiance. It was massive, sleek, and beautiful. Its hull was made from wellspring-enhanced metal that could withstand plasma fire. Its engines could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. Its weapons were powered by the unlimited energy of the ancient technology. When Admiral Wu stood on its bridge for the first time, he felt something he had never felt before. Power, real power, the kind that could change history. "This ship is a symbol," he said to his officers. "It shows what we can become, but we must never forget why we built it. We built it because we remember. We remember being weak. We remember being afraid. We will never be weak or afraid again." Commander Jin stood beside him that day. She was his intelligence chief, responsible for watching the council and learning their secrets. Her parents had died during the exile, killed when their ship lost power during the Winter of Silence. She had survived by hiding in a storage compartment for 3 days, eating emergency rations and listening to the screams fade into silence. That experience had made her hard, some said too hard, but Wu trusted her completely. Our spies have penetrated Council space, Jin reported. They are monitoring communications, gathering data. So far, the Council has no idea we still exist. They stopped thinking about us 50 years ago. Good, Wu said. Let them stay ignorant. The longer they underestimate us, the stronger we become. The years passed. The Coalition built 50 ships like the Defiance, then 100, then 500. They built orbital factories that could produce more ships in months instead of years. They built training academies that turned farmers into pilots and miners into soldiers. But they also built schools and hospitals and parks. They created art and music and literature. They fell in love and had children and grew old. They were not just building a war machine. They were building a civilization. Captain, now Admiral, oversaw the exploration of the wellspring structure. His teams discovered new chambers, new technologies, new wonders. Some of what they found was too advanced for humans to understand yet. They sealed those sections and marked them for future study. "We are like children in a library," told Doctor one evening. They had become close friends over the years, bonded by their shared discovery. "We can read some of the books, but most are still beyond us." "Give us time," replied. "That is all we have ever needed, time and determination." "Do you think we will have enough time, before the Council finds us?" Was quiet for a moment. "I do not know, but I know this, whatever happens, we will be more ready than they expect." In Council space, rumors began to spread. Traders who visited the Edge territories spoke of strange lights in the outer rim. Smugglers whispered about human ships that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as fast. Some council members dismissed these stories. Others grew concerned. General was among the concerned. He had never forgotten the humans. He had been young when they were exiled, just a junior officer. But he had seen the desperation in their eyes, and he had seen something else too. Something dangerous. "We should send scouts," he urged the council, "just to confirm the humans are dead, to make sure." High Speaker laughed. "The humans, they died generations ago. The outer rim killed them as we knew it would. You worry about ghosts, General." "Ghosts do not show up on sensor scans," replied. "But something does. Something in that region is generating enormous energy signatures. I want to know what." "Then investigate if you wish, but do not waste council resources on fairy tales." "Sent 3 scout ships, none returned." He sent 10 more. Only one came back, badly damaged. Its crew was dead, but its data recorders were intact. What saw on those recordings made his blood run cold. Human ships, dozens of them, fast and powerful and unlike anything he had ever seen. They had intercepted the Council scouts at the edge of the outer rim and destroyed them with terrifying efficiency. The humans were not dead. They were alive, and they had built something incredible. Rushed to present his evidence to the Council, but the others refused to believe it. "Impossible," declared. "This is some trick, perhaps pirates using old human ships, perhaps another species trying to frighten us. I will not panic over grainy footage and wild theories." "This is not a theory," shouted. "This is proof. The humans have returned and they are stronger than before." "Enough," said coldly. "You are relieved of your investigation, General. Return to your normal duties and speak no more of humans." Left the chamber in fury, but he did not stop watching. He did not stop preparing, because he knew the truth even if the Council refused to see it. The humans were coming. And when they arrived, the galaxy would never be the same. Back in the outer rim, Admiral Wu received the report about the destroyed scout ships. He sat in his office aboard the Defiance and read it carefully. His face showed no emotion. "They know we are here now," Commander Jin said. "It is only a matter of time before they send more than scouts." Wu nodded slowly. "Then we continue as planned, build more ships, train more soldiers, strengthen our borders. And when they come—" Wu looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere beyond those stars, the council sat in their comfortable chambers, believing themselves masters of the galaxy. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "When they come," he said quietly, "we will teach them the meaning of a very old human word." "What word?" Wu smiled. It was not a warm smile. "Consequences." General stood before the full council for the final time. His evidence was undeniable now. Human ships had been spotted by multiple sources. Human communications had been intercepted. Human technology had been analyzed from the wreckage of their scout ships. The humans were not just alive, they were thriving, and they were powerful. "We must act now," urged. "Every day we wait, they grow stronger. Their ships are already superior to ours. If we give them another decade, they will be unstoppable." High Speaker looked uncomfortable. He had dismissed warnings for years. He had called him a fool and a coward. Now the truth was impossible to ignore, and hated being wrong more than anything. "What do you propose?" asked stiffly. "A peacekeeping mission," said. 3,000 ships. We enter the outer rim, establish control, and remind the humans of their place. They cannot have more than a few hundred vessels. Our numbers will overwhelm them. And if they resist, then we destroy them, completely this time. No exile, no mercy. We end the human problem forever." The council voted. The result was unanimous. The peacekeeping fleet would launch within the month. Felt satisfaction, but also fear. He had studied the wreckage of human ships. He had seen what their weapons could do. He knew this would not be the easy victory the council expected. But he had no choice. He had to try. The fleet assembled at the edge of council space. 3,000 ships of all sizes, crewed by soldiers from 11 different species. It was the largest military force the council had gathered in 500 years. Surely, it would be enough. Stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. It was an old ship, proven in a dozen campaigns. He trusted it more than he trusted the politicians who had sent him on this mission. "All ships report ready," his second officer announced. "We can jump to the outer rim on your command." Looked at the stars one last time. Somewhere out there, the humans were waiting. They knew the fleet was coming. His scouts had reported that the human border had gone silent, all ships pulled back. They were preparing something. "May the ancestors guide us," muttered. Then louder, "All ships engage jump drives, take us to the boundary." The fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel. The journey took 3 days. When they emerged, they were at the edge of the outer rim. The boundary, as humans called it. The line between council space and the domain they had built in exile. What waited for them, their mates' hearts stop. A wall of ships stretched across the space before them. Not hundreds, thousands. Human vessels of every size, arranged in perfect formation. At their center, massive dreadnoughts bristled with weapons that glowed with strange energy. "Impossible," whispered. "There are more of them than us." His tactical officer was shaking. "Sir, I am reading over 4,000 human vessels. Their power signatures are. Sir, their smallest ships are generating more energy than our largest battle cruisers." Steadied himself. He was a soldier. He would not show fear. "Open a communication channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." The screen flickered, and Admiral Wu's face appeared. He was calm, almost peaceful. He sat in a command chair that looked more advanced than anything the council had ever built. "General," Wu said, "I wondered when you would come. You were the only one who ever took us seriously." "You know why we are here," replied. "Stand down your fleet and submit to council authority. This does not need to end in bloodshed." Wu smiled slightly. "Council authority. Interesting words from the people who exiled us to die, who refused to even speak our name for 200 years. Tell me, General, do you truly believe we will surrender to you? You are outnumbered in firepower and experience. Your ships may be advanced, but you have never fought a real war. We have conquered dozens of species." "You have bullied dozens of species," Wu corrected. "You have crushed those too weak to fight back. We are not weak. We have not been weak for a very long time." Felt sweat forming on his brow. "Then let us talk. Perhaps there is a peaceful solution." There was a peaceful solution 200 years ago. It was called membership. It was called equality. Your council chose exile instead. Your council chose contempt. Wu leaned forward. "But I am not my ancestors. I will give you one chance, General. One chance to turn your fleet around and leave. Take this message to your council. The Outer Rim belongs to humanity. It is not open to negotiation. Go home and we can pretend this never happened." Hesitated. Part of him wanted to accept. Part of him screamed that this was a trap, that he was leading his soldiers to slaughter. But he had his orders, and he had his pride. "I cannot do that," he said quietly. "I am sorry." Wu's expression did not change. "So am I." The communication ended. For a moment both fleets hung in space, silent and still. Then the humans moved. They struck like lightning. The first wave of human fighters tore through the Council's formation before anyone could react. They were small and fast, almost impossible to track. They targeted the larger ships, disabling weapons and engines with surgical precision. Shouted orders, trying to organize a response, but his fleet was already in chaos. Ships collided with each other as they tried to maneuver. Communications were jammed by unknown technology. Plasma fire filled the void, but most of it hit nothing. The human dreadnoughts advanced slowly, almost leisurely. Their weapons fired in controlled bursts, each shot punching through Council shields like they were made of paper. One by one, the great warships of the Council fleet began to fall. Captain led the fighter squadrons from his own craft. He was too old for this, really. His reflexes were not what they had been, but he had discovered the wellspring. He had earned the right to be here. "Stay in formation," he called to his pilots. "Target their command ships. Cut off the head and the body will fall." His pilots obeyed perfectly. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Every simulation, every drill, every exercise had prepared them to face the Council. Now that the moment had come, they fought without fear. Commander Jin monitored the battle from the Defiance's intelligence center. Her screens showed the positions of every ship, human and Council alike. She watched the enemy fleet crumble and felt nothing. No joy, no satisfaction, just cold efficiency. "Their flagship is trying to retreat," she reported to Admiral Wu. "Should we pursue?" Wu considered. The battle was already won. Most of the Council fleet was destroyed or disabled. Thousands of enemy soldiers were dead or dying. He could let go, let him carry the message of defeat back to his masters. Or he could end it here. "No," he said finally. "Let them run, but disable their jump drive. I want to speak with General one more time." Jin nodded and relayed the order. A precision strike disabled the Eternal Dominion's engines. The flagship drifted helplessly among the wreckage of its fleet. Wu opened a channel, appeared on screen again. His uniform was torn. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Behind him, his bridge was filled with smoke and screaming. "It is over," Wu said. "Your fleet is destroyed." Stared at him. "What are you?" "We are what you made us," Wu replied. "We are the children of exile, the survivors of contempt. You threw us into the darkness and expected us to disappear. Instead, we found light." He paused. "Surrender, General. Order your remaining ships to stand down. No more of your people need to die today." Was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "All ships, this is General, stand down. I repeat, stand down. The battle is over." One by one, the surviving council vessels powered down their weapons. Humans swarmed over them, taking prisoners, treating the wounded, securing the ships. They were efficient but not cruel. No one was executed. No one was tortured. Wu had given strict orders about that. They were not like the council. They would never be like the council. 6 hours after the first shot was fired, the Battle of the Boundary ended. The council had lost 2,000 ships and nearly 1,000,000 soldiers. The humans had lost 300 ships and 12,000 lives. Each human death was recorded. Each name would be remembered. Each family would be honored. Admiral Wu stood on the bridge of the Defiance and looked at the field of wreckage. Victory tasted bitter in his mouth. He had not wanted this. None of them had wanted this, but the council had forced their hand. "Send a message to Coalition Command," he ordered. "Tell them the boundary holds. Tell them we are safe." Then he turned to his officers. "And tell them to prepare. This was only the beginning. The council will not accept this defeat quietly. Harder days are coming." His officers saluted and went to work. Wu stayed at the viewport, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the council was learning what had happened. Somewhere out there, High Speaker was realizing that everything he believed was wrong. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was changing. The humans had been cast aside, forgotten, left to die. Now they had risen, and nothing would ever be the same again.